Kayla is not available for tomorrow night, but it is not a season-ending injury. It'll be kind of a wait and see, but definitely will not play against Texas A&M, but is definitely also not season-ending. With that said, obviously going to be an emotional game for anybody that's attached to Coach Blair, with it being our last game playing against him during the regular season. It's an important game to both teams. I know they want to get back on the winning track, and we certainly want to take advantage of every game we have down the stretch. So it's been a competitive game for the last 5 or 6 meetings. Last year's games both came down to the buzzer. The last tournament games have been exciting. So it's last year's defending SEC champions. And because their record is what their record is, don't let that deceive you. They're still a good basketball team and a lot of really good players. And I think they'll play with a great sense of urgency. So on a quick turnaround, we've got to find some energy and go down there in a good frame of mind, let this weather, not bother us, get down there, get settled in, and be ready to play. Another late tip. So lots of challenges, lots of adversity to overcome, but we've been pretty good at doing that.
Paul? Just to start then, obviously if Michaela not available tomorrow, what does that make your starting lineup look like for tomorrow?
We'll start Riley. We tinkered with, do you go big? Do you go back to some of that? But I think, to me, just the way we try to do things and the way I like to do things is when there is adversity, try to change as few things as possible. Try to keep it as normal as you can. And Riley obviously gets us all. She plays starter minutes, and I think that's the fastest, best way for us to go. So Riley will start, and then we just have our rotations be a little shorter. We've got to get some, and we've shown that we can do that. When we needed Oberg and Emery to play when Aaron was gone, so this is Alana's opportunity, and it may be Ashlyn Sage's opportunity, but that's why they practice. That's why they stay ready.
And I'll follow with, looking at from a standpoint of A&M, what do you see in them lately that, are they different from what they've been, it's simple to say what's wrong, but what do you see?
Not being down there, this is the outsider's observation. It's hard to win with in a situation where the kids are playing their guts out for you. They all want to do well for Coach Blair. They're pleasers too. They want to send him out the right way. And I'm sure there's just a lot of uncertainty with all that. And it's, that's the razor thin line in this league. From SEC champs to that's just where we're at. So it could be that. It could be that there's, they do have a lot of new faces with transfers, but their identity is the same. You still got, Jordan, as long as Jordan Nixon's got the ball in her hands against us until that clock hits 0-0-0, there will not be a relaxed moment with us. They've got it. It's there. And that's what's scary about it is it's just a matter of time before I think it does start to click. And the emotion wears away, but they get it every night. We're taking, I'm taking Coach Blair a gift. There'll be a moment of, of celebration. So they've been seeing that every single game. So I'm sure it's really hard, but I also know that Reed Arena crowd, what it's like, it's just a matter of time before they get hot.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Russell, with Michaela out, what does this mean for Samara? And I'm sure she'll be ready for whatever role she's called upon.
Yeah, she showed that in the second half. You started to see glimpses of that. So, now she'll probably have to guard Jordan Nixon instead of Mac having had guard her. So it changes her defensive prep a little bit, puts the ball in her hands. Making a few more decisions maybe that she has to make, but she will be ready for it. But again, it's you don't look for any one person to do it. We got to get help from everybody. You don't, Mac's leading scorer, rebounder, assist, and steals. That's a lot to ask any one person to pick up the slack for. So, like they did, I think in the second half, last game, it was a little bit of everybody doing a little bit more of everything. So. But Sam's ready for it. She had a great day yesterday, and just she's such a great question asker, and I think I think she's certainly ready for it. But it takes everybody to replace what Mac has been doing.
And then, what are your thoughts on Gary's career and kind of what he's meant to you?
Well, y'all aren't talking to me without Coach Blair. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Randy might have been talking to me because I might still be in the coach of Cabot down there. But, if Coach Blair doesn't take a chance, on a snotty-nosed high school coach that thought he knew everything about the game that really didn't, I wouldn't be talking to you. I had my daughter send him a thank you as well because, he changed the lives of my kids, my family, the experiences that basketball as a result of him not only giving me a chance, but then preparing me too. Like, he didn't just give me a chance. Like, he invested. He put me in tough situations. He challenged me every single day by throwing me jobs, I think, that to see if I really did want it. You got the job. Do you really want this job? Top deal. And then the freedom to sit on Vic's couch and learn how to scout, sit in Kelly Bond's office and learn how to recruit, and then sit in Amber's office and watch how to run a program. Amber's got 37 years of running a program without ever being called a head coach. So, just the investment, and then the continued now. I've said the word before, but I never mean it when I say it. To just think of us as colleagues. We have the same jobs, but I don't look at him as being in his peer group. I will always look up to him. I will always take his phone call when he sees us doing something that he doesn't think's right. And I'll always listen to his advice. I've got a very small circle when it comes to that, but he certainly is one of those, and always will be. So it'll be emotional for me. I don't know how he's been doing this all year long. He's been saying bye to a lot of people. So, but then just for the game, he's always been for women's basketball. During a time when it wasn't important on a lot of campuses, he made it important at a lot of places. Certainly here, I don't think there's anybody that would argue that he got the crowds going, the attendance up, how much work he did, how many doors he knocked on, how many Rotary clubs he spoke to, how many Chamber of Commerce deals he did. I'm not sure he ever said no. And I know we wouldn't be in the place where we were. We wouldn't have the things we have or the support we have. And I hope that we've tried to keep up with it. To honoring Coach Schaefer and I, Coach is a little bit of a clothes horse. He's a pretty dapper guy. So Coach Schaefer and I will be decked out in suits tomorrow for the only time all year long. As our thank you to Coach Blair. We won't be able to outdress him, but we'll try.
Porter. Coach, the only question I have to ask is just how hard is it to unpack and pack up those emotions? Just how much he's meant to you for those 40 minutes, or does that just come with how long you've been coaching and knowing that just, all right, let's put it away for 40 minutes and then revisit it after the game?
I've been pretty good at it the last few years. The first couple of times we played, I looked at it differently. Like, it was a different game. It was like, this is Coach Blair, Now, the last couple of times I've been able to kind of compartmentalize it a little bit. But I think knowing this will be the last time, I expect some of that will come back in there. But it won't affect. We're still going to try to beat him. Don't get me wrong. I'm not, and he wouldn't want it any other way. He wouldn't want it any other way. He's going to get he'll get his revenge on the golf course the next several years because he's playing those front tees. But, I'd be lying to you if I told you it's not going to feel different. It will. It'll feel a little different, but hopefully, the game's energy will take over that, and I'll forget about it. But it'll certainly have a different feel to it. I don't think you should be excited. I honestly don't think you should expect not to have that. It's rare. You don't have it a lot, but this will be one of those games you do.
Randy.
Mike, as a footnote, we used to have a cot down at the radio station for Gary when he came to Little Rock. He spent so much time down there promoting women's basketball that we actually put a cot for him down at the station. I don't know if he's still there or not. But
well, let me know. I may need it in the future.
You had to face this the other night, and Russell kind of talked about it a second ago. talk about the changing of responsibilities that come along with Mac being out of the ball game, because it seemed like, particularly the third quarter, you went a lot of isolation with Amber.
Yeah.
And then in the fourth quarter, it didn't quite work as well. So talk about the switching responsibilities and what has to happen.
That changed. What happened was it changed Tennessee's matchups. You know, with Mac being out, it really shifted all their players over one, and it gave Amber a little bit more of a favorable matchup in the third quarter. Then they switched Torsten back on to in the fourth. So that's why we went away from a little bit of that. But the responsibilities it comes down to decisions. You know, as that person that's bringing it up the floor and looking over, either surveying the defense or looking over to the coach to get us in what we need to get, you have to make a few more decisions with the ball in your hand than without it. I think that's really simply it. The rest of the possession is the same for everybody, but to get it started, and then I think it really changed who Sam was having to guard. So, you know, you prepare for 2 days with your scouting report, you know, the tendencies of maybe one or two people, but now all of a sudden you're guarding two different people. Matt, she'll be better prepared for that in this game because I think, you know, she'll do the work ahead of time. But I think that's the biggest change. And every coach coaches their point guard a little differently, a little harder because of the expectations. So she'll have to get used to that too. She'll be responsible for everything, even if it isn't her fault. You know, it's kind of one of those deals you just have to learn to say you're sorry when it's not your fault. You have to accept that, and that's a change. That'll be a little bit of a change. But we worked on that in practice yesterday. I can tell you this: her teammates rallied around her. I thought in the second half, you know, she, you know, went looked grim in the fourth. Even in that overtime when we got down 5, she made 2 big plays. And just to see her team respond around her at the end of the game, she feels awful about missing 2 free throws, but nobody pounded on that or piled on. It was there to pick her up, and I think that moment. Sam's a big growth person. If you know her family, you know that they grow from all tough situations, and I think the other night it's going to end up being fortunate for us again in that I think it's only going to make Sam grow up a little bit faster than a freshman should honestly be expected to do. But, you know, when the situation arises, a lot of times kids rise to that expectation. I think Sam will.
One other concern you have to have, you talked about the short turnaround, the fatigue that you had against Tennessee with all the big players, the rebounding, you said eventually wore you down.
It did.
How do you kind of spread that out over such a short period of time going in against A&M back again on the road?
Well, we only practiced for 25 minutes yesterday. That's, you know, you got to give them their legs. So we were only on their legs yesterday for 25 minutes. We'll only be on them for about 45 minutes today. Fortunately, it comes during a time of the year where, you know, we're not putting anything new in. It's, you know, it's maybe some new rotations, but we watched a little extra film. The scout video will be a little extra long. The 8 o'clock tip actually helps us. Those 2 hours, not having a 6 o'clock game in this particular situation will be a benefit. But I think as coaches, it's up to us to get off their legs, to spend extra time in the rehab and the cold tub, and, you know, not expect them to have to come back out and get right back after it and practice 2.5, 3 hours. I think that's a dead idea. It's a dead way of thinking. So they're used to playing. I mean, these kids grew up playing 3 or 4 games a day in AAU. So they can do it as long as we as the adults don't expect them to play those games and practice 2.5 or 3 hours in between those days, which we didn't do. So I don't expect our legs will be any fatigue from Tennessee, but that will still have that compounding effect. A&M still got big bodies and they rebound it well, but I don't think we'll see a lack of energy. We also know that we got a bye week coming up. So I think with that being said, I think kids have a tendency to know they can dig down a little bit deeper. We'll use our timeouts. You know, I don't normally use our timeouts until the fourth quarter if we don't need to. But if we start to show signs of fatigue early, I'll use those 1 per quarter and then hope that we don't need them at the end of the game to advance the ball. But I certainly don't want to lose the game in the first quarter or the second quarter because of fatigue.
Anything else for Coach?
Hey, I was gonna go a couple ways.
Yeah, go.
Number one, Mike, you said Michaela, no way for Thursday. What about going forward? Is there a timetable, or is that just going to take it as we go?
Here's where I'm at. Y'all just will get this from me probably the rest of the time. If it's an injury that doesn't require surgery, who knows? We're all guessing. If it requires surgery, you got a little bit more of a definitive. Okay, they're going to be. But when it doesn't require that, everybody's a little different. If it comes down to how tough they are, then Mac's going to be on the short end of that deal because she's tough. If it goes toward, but we will not ever, ever, ever put a timetable on something one way or the other because I think that forces you into maybe having to make a hard decision. Like if I come out and say, "Hey, she's going to be back for tennis for whatever game," what if she's not ready? So I just like to say we're going to play her where the doctors, the family, and the kid feel confident. That's the best thing. So, I mean, if you want a reaction from me, I would tell you never want a kid to get hurt. You never want to get but it was a good news type deal that we got. It could have been really bad. I mean, it could have been in season ending. None of us knew. It looked bad. It looked bad when you went back and looked at the replay. It could have been career ending. So the fact that it's not, we'll hope for the best, but plan for the worst. That's kind of the Pawpaw Neighbors in me.
And last thing for me is, I know Gary kind of went to a bigger lineup in the last game. What do you expect against you guys?
Every time I think I got him figured out, like again, what they call that fooled by randomness. I think I know him, so I can, and he always fools me. So I honestly think they'll go with Kayla Wells at 4, to match up with us. But a lot of that was, he's got a new defensive coordinator, Bob Starkey, who's been with him for a number of years since Vic left, and Bob used to handle that. So I don't know. I know Greg, his new guy, a little bit, but I don't know if he's been there long enough to build up the clout to walk in and tell Coach Blair they're changing the lineup. But we'll prepare for both those. I mean, they play about the same 7 or 8 kids, in big games, a combination of those kids. But, he'll be guessing a little bit, too, on who we're going to start. So there'll probably be a race between Todd and Greg to see who can put the book in last. I wouldn't put it past Coach Blair to see who we're playing before he announces who he's starting. I mean, Kayla Wells has started 109 straight games until last week. So anything's possible. Coach is a wild card right now. He's a wild man. But knowing that he's done, man, there's no telling what'll happen. He may press. He may press start to finish. I don't know.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Porter, last one.
Coach, going back to Michaela, are you going to be a little bit more cautious, especially with down the stretch in the last 5 games, in 10 days, like making sure she's fully healthy before you bring her back? Or is that something that's in your mindset, or just has nothing to do with it?
No, it'll go back to that thing we talked about a minute ago. When Mac walks up to me and says, "Coach, I'm ready," that'll be when we go. I'll make sure with the doctors, because Mac will say it tomorrow. Mac will be, "I can play, Coach. Take me up." That'd be Mac. But when we get her clearance and the doctor's clearance, then we'll start figuring out what's the best for the return. With the 5 games in 10 days, and then the 4, SEC, potentially 4 SEC tournament games after that, you do have to think big picture for it. I think if you don't, it's not fair to the kid. She's got to walk around for the rest of her life and do other things and have a life beyond college. So we won't make anything until she is 100%. It won't have anything to do with who we're playing, where we're playing, or when we're playing.
All right, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow night.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.